This is Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition for the game starting on Wednesday, February 18, 2026, and ending on Sunday, February 22nd. I am Bob McDonald. My co-host Jim Cerro, who you would normally hear with me, is not going to be joining us, so I'm going to be flying solo. But as always, the Expand Your Horizon Preview Edition is sponsored by the Horizon League, who wants to remind you that tickets are on sale now. So make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com/Indy for championships information, including game tickets and much more. Fans can save 50% off select ticket offerings by using the offer code HL2026. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. So let's get into the first game of the week, which is on Wednesday, February 18th. It's a 6:30 p.m. Eastern game. It's going to be the return matchup where Cleveland State is heading to Zion Family Arena to play Youngstown State, and this is a game that features the two most prolific three-point shooting teams in the conference. You're going to see that theme with Cleveland State this week, but one of the things that worked to Cleveland State's advantage in the win at the Wolstein Center is that Cleveland State was actually able to keep Youngstown State at bay from the three-point line, and that's going to definitely be critical here in this particular game. And this game absolutely has some seeding implications for the Horizon League tournament. The loser of this game may very well end up being having to play that playing game on Monday as one of the bottom two seeds, so they certainly want to avoid doing that, especially Cleveland State. And Cleveland State has to use this game to right the ship after winning 5 straight games. They're now on a 3-game losing streak. Youngstown State, on the other hand, in spite of losing to Detroit Mercy, they did get a critical win at the arena against Oakland, which is why we're in this situation to begin with. So it's going to be incumbent upon both of these teams to absolutely play their best. And in the case of Cleveland State, it's going to have to come from the three-point shooting because, as last game was indicative, Youngstown State did not have a problem rebounding. They out-rebounded the Vikings 38-29. But again, the three-point shooting is going to be absolutely critical because the Penguins only shot 18.6% in that game, and Cleveland State continues to have a decided advantage as far as shooting beyond the arc is concerned. That second half of the first game was absolutely a dream for Cleveland State because they shot 8 of 12 in that game and definitely came alive during that game. So it's going to be critical for Cleveland State to outperform and right the ship in this particular instance. Now, moving on, we are going into the 7 p.m. Eastern game. The 7 p.m. Eastern game is going to be another return matchup. Actually, they all are basically at this point. This time it's going to be Purdue-Fort Wayne. They're going to be heading to Northern Kentucky. The last time these two teams met, it was an absolute barn burner, where Northern Kentucky had a double-digit advantage going in halftime, and then Purdue-Fort Wayne kicked it in another gear and was able to eke out a win, especially even though Northern Kentucky had a couple of opportunities to tie or win the game at the end of that end of the first matchup. So that is definitely something that's going to come into play this time around. As with the last game, the big question is going to be who's got the better backcourt. Last time around, the advantage went to Purdue-Fort Wayne, where you had Corey Hadnot scoring 25 points, DeAndre Craig scoring 16, and so it's going to be definitely going to be a question of which backcourt outperforms. There's still a question mark as to whether or not Kel Robinson is back too. So the advantage that Northern Kentucky had in the first game on the boards may be diminished. So there's going to be a lot more on the shoulders of LJ Wells in this particular matchup. So let's go ahead and move on to Thursday. Thursday is going to be IU Indy. IU Indy, who in spite of the fact has been in most of the was in the last 3 games. Dropped all 3 of them. And they're going to be playing a Wright State team they gave fits to in Indy, but this is at the Nutter Center, so there's going to definitely be a decided home court advantage for Wright State this time around. One of the things that is certainly going to work to Wright State's advantage in this game is going to be the rebounding, because they do have a slight edge as far as rebounding is concerned. They also definitely have an advantage as far as the defense is concerned. That is something that defensively, that is definitely something that Wright State used to its advantage in the last game, which kept IU Indy from winning that game. But points in the paint are absolutely going to be a factor as well, because in spite of the fact that Wright State has a decent size advantage, over IU Indy. IU Indy actually outscored them in the paint. And that's going to be something that that Wright State is definitely going to take a look at. I think the other difference here is the emergence of Kellen Pickett up front to be an excellent complement to Michael Amaribe. Not to mention the fact that you can expect to see a lot more of Andre Holden, who only played 8 minutes in the first contest. So that is definitely going to be something you take into account as we move forward. All right, so moving into the Friday games on February 20th, we have Milwaukee. Milwaukee is going to Detroit Mercy to play at Callahan Hall at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, Detroit Mercy is definitely an important game for Detroit Mercy, as they are absolutely in the hunt for a home court game in the Horizon League tournament, so they absolutely do not want to fall short at any point in time. The last time these two teams played, it was in Milwaukee. Detroit Mercy won by 13. One of the keys there was that they definitely had an advantage in the rebounding. This was one of the first games back for Faison Fields. You do expect to see a little more of Faison Fields in this next game. But one of the other advantages that Detroit Mercy had was in the paint. Detroit Mercy still, even with Faison Fields on the Milwaukee roster, Detroit Mercy does still have the advantage. Size-wise, it was certainly evident with Ryan Callambay. He had a great game in Milwaukee, grabbing 10 rebounds. Legend Jeter had 8 of those rebounds, and it's definitely going to work to their advantage to be able to do. They're going to use that size to work their advantage in the paint, and expect to see a lot more of Tyler Spratt in this game, because Tyler Spratt has been pretty hot lately, and I'm sure he's going to want to expound upon the 10 points that he had in the win the last time. You can also probably expect to see a lot more of Stevie Elam. He was held to 5 points in this game, and his shooting night was not all that great. So he was only 2 for 9 in the first game, and I'm sure he's going to want to significantly improve upon that. So let's move on to the second 7 p.m. game, the second 7 p.m. Eastern game on the Friday, and that is Green Bay. They're going to the arena. And they're going to play going to play Oakland. The last time these two teams met, Oakland pretty much owned the entire game. They won pretty handily. They won by 25. And this is one of those games that's going to be pivotal for both of these teams because Oakland needs to have it. This is if Oakland wants to have any outside shot of getting the top seed in the Horizon League tournament, they're going to have to win this game, and they're going to have to win the game against Milwaukee. And this may be a good start for Oakland. And certainly will be helpful to them as a potential bounce back from the previous week where they lost to Youngstown State at home and then they got drubbed on the road against Robert Morris. Green Bay is still kind of smarting from that last second loss to Milwaukee, and it seems like there's going to be. It seems like the big thing here is going to be shooting beyond the arc because with Green Bay in the game in the loss against Oakland, effectively nothing was going right for them, especially beyond the arc because they only shot 20.8% from beyond the arc, including 1 for 12. They shot 12 three-pointers and only hit 1 in that second half, and that certainly allowed Oakland to run away with this game because at halftime it was only a 6-point difference between the two teams, and Oakland just ran away from them in the second half. So Green Bay is going to have to avoid, repeating that particular issue moving forward, and especially in this game. Now, Oakland is going to have, with Oakland, however, the big thing for Oakland in this particular game is Isaac Garrett. Isaac Garrett had 10 rebounds in this game. Him and Buru Navarua, they both had 10 rebounds. They definitely dominated the glass. But the problem is going to be the ongoing question of Isaac Garrett's health. This will be his second game coming back from a leg injury, and so the question for him is going to be how much more improved he's going to be from the Robert Morris game, and I feel like that's going to definitely be something to look at. And more to the point, even though Oakland won by 25, Brody Robinson was pretty muted by his standards. He only scored 10 points in this game. Now, mind you, he did get 5 assists off of 1 turnover. But I do believe that there's an opportunity for Brody Robinson to improve offensively on this front. For Green Bay, they're gonna need to get markedly improved shooting from beyond the arc from their shooters, specifically Marcus Hall. Preston Riedinger was only 1 for 7 in that last game, so he's definitely going to have to step up. And Caden Wilkins is absolutely going to need to step up as well. So that is definitely going to be Green Bay's challenge this time around. Not only that, but they're definitely going to need to offset what Oakland is bringing in the paint. That's certainly not going to be an easy task. All right, so before we get into the Sunday games, I want to remind you once again that tickets are on sale now. So make your plans to be in Indy March 8th through the 10th for the 2026 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from us here at the Horizon Roundtable, visit horizonleague.com/Indy for championships information, including game tickets and much more. Fans can save 50% off selected ticket offerings using the offer code HL2026. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at Corteva Coliseum, March 8th through the 10th. That offer code we will be including in the episode description, so if you missed that offer code, we'll be providing that in the podcast episode description this week and next week, so be on the lookout for that. So let's go ahead and move into the Sunday games. We just talked about Green Bay. We just talked about Green Bay in the last game on Friday. Now we're going to talk about them in the first game, 1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Eastern at Callahan Hall. And unlike the game against Oakland, where nothing was going right for Green Bay, Little different story against Detroit Mercy in their first go-around, where they had no problem on the glass against Detroit Mercy, in spite of the fact that Detroit Mercy on paper has an advantage as it relates to their front court. They certainly had no problems there, and more to the point, they were able to out of the 13 turnovers. The 13 turnovers that Detroit Mercy had in this game, 10 of those were caused by Green Bay. Green Bay got 10 steals in this game, and they're going to certainly not only are they going to look to do the same thing against Detroit Mercy this time, but they're definitely going to try to keep the ball out of Detroit Mercy's hands, because Detroit Mercy only had 2 steals in the last contest. And one of the other things, too, that will be extremely important for Detroit Mercy to turn it around from the last time is points in the paint, in spite, again, on paper, having a size advantage over Green Bay. Green Bay dominated the points in the paint. Green Bay had 36 points in the paint, whereas Detroit Mercy only had 16. And that's going to be a major issue for that was a major issue for Detroit Mercy in the last game, and they're certainly going to need to shore up the glass and the paint to make up for what happened the last time between these two teams. All right, moving on, we are going into the first 2 p.m. Eastern game, and it's going to be Purdue-Fort Wayne against Cleveland State. Now, the first time that Purdue-Fort Wayne and Cleveland State met, Cleveland State got out to a double-digit advantage in Fort Wayne, and they had a shot to win this, but Purdue-Fort Wayne came back and beat them in the end. And a lot of the that was kind of a running theme a little bit for Cleveland State in a few games, and this is certainly one of those times. So Cleveland State is absolutely going to need to press its advantage, particularly on the glass, because this is actually one of those games. This is one of those games where Cleveland State has a rebounding advantage because despite the fact that Cleveland State and Purdue-Fort Wayne are 10th and 11th in the conference in rebounding, Cleveland State actually on average rebounds about 2.5 better than Purdue-Fort Wayne. And the rebounding margin, again, nothing to write home about between these two teams. Cleveland State is a -5 rebounding margin, and Purdue-Fort Wayne is worse. Their rebounding margin is -9.9. So if there is any game where Cleveland State is going to have an advantage on the boards, this is going to have to be that game for them. And it's definitely going to be, not only is it going to have to be that game for them as far as rebounding is concerned, they're definitely going to have to take a look at taking into account Purdue-Fort Wayne's backcourt, which is going to be a decided advantage. Which is going to be a decided advantage for them. It certainly was in the last game, where you had Corey Hadnot, DeAndre Craig, and Mikhail Stevenson as their top 3 scorers, and they scored, and those 3 guys, just those 3 guys scored 58 of the 74 points in that first contest. So they're definitely going to have to keep that backcourt of Purdue-Fort Wayne's at bay. All right, moving on. We are going to get into the second 2 p.m. Eastern game, and this is going to be Northern Kentucky, and they are going to be heading to Zidon Family Arena to play Youngstown State. The last time these two teams played, Northern Kentucky got out to a super fast start. They scored 50 points on this Youngstown State team in the first half alone in this game. Youngstown State chipped away at it in the second half, but in the end, Northern Kentucky still won by 15. And so one of the things that worked to Northern Kentucky's advantage in this particular game is the three-point shooting. They shot 45% in this game, and 51.7% overall, which was a decided advantage to Youngstown State only shooting 40%. One of the other advantages that they had was on the glass. Even though on paper Youngstown State has the advantage as far as size is concerned, Northern Kentucky was able to out-rebound Youngstown State 45-33. Now, one of the big question marks in this game, again, as it will be for the first game of the week for Northern Kentucky, is the availability of Cale Robinson. Now, one of the things that Youngstown State is going to have to contend with is they're going to have to contend with Northern Kentucky shooters. Dan Goresger went off on them, scored 26 points in the last game. LJ Wells was also very good. He was 7 for 11 from the field, and he was also the team's leading rebounder at 11. So it is absolutely important for Youngstown State, especially given where they are positioned in the conference, to certainly right the ship in this particular instance. All right, let's move on to the third 2 p.m. Eastern game, and this is going to be Robert Morris. They're going to be heading to the Nutter Center to play Wright State, and the last time these two teams played, Wright State got caught flat-footed a little bit because Northern Kentucky won not Northern Kentucky, I'm sorry. Robert Morris beat this team. Robert Morris beat this team by 6. And one of the advantages they had was Robert Morris also got out to a quick start in the first half, getting out to a 13-point advantage against Wright State. Now, mind you, of course, no lead is safe, double-digit or otherwise, with Wright State, and they were able to chip away, but at the end of the day, Robert Morris was able to get the win. Now, the big thing that you can take away from the last game is the rebounding. The rebounding was actually in Wright State's advantage. You had both Michael Amari Bay and Kellen Pickett leading the team. Amari Bay had 13 boards and Kellen Pickett had 11. And so you definitely had an advantage related to them, and you can expect to see a lot more of Andre Holden. He only played 14 minutes in the last game, so you can expect to see a lot more of him. And it's interesting that the matchups that we have, because obviously Deshaun Good and Nikos Hidekudas have been outstanding throughout in the front court for Robert Morris, and they certainly were in the first game. Now, the big thing that Wright State is going to have to figure out, that they weren't able to figure out in the first game, is that Wright State was not very good from beyond the arc. They only shot 25% from beyond the arc. And so in order for them to get back into this game, get the advantage in this game, they're going to have to significantly improve on their three-point shooting. And if there's any indication, depending on if the last few games has been any indication, they are certainly capable of doing that. One other thing too, and this was extremely important, is that Wright State did not have a great time. Did not do very well from the free throw line. They only shot 68%. They were 15-22. And if a few of those free throws had fallen, it might have been a different situation for them against Robert Morris at Moon Township. And so that is definitely something that they're going to have to take a look at moving forward. All right, the last game. It's a 3 p.m. Eastern game. It is going to be Milwaukee. They are going to be heading to the arena, and they are going to be playing Oakland. Now, Oakland, again, this is going to be a critical week for them. They got to get wins against Green Bay and a win against Milwaukee. Now, good news is, just like the Green Bay game, Oakland didn't have a problem with Milwaukee. They were able to keep them at bay. They beat them by 13, and again, they were able to use their front court to their advantage. With Buru and Isaac Garrett and Michael Hogue pulling down about 29 of their 43 total rebounds in that game, which is good because this is one of those times where Milwaukee, in spite of having a size disadvantage because Faison Fields was not available for this game, Milwaukee kept it pretty even. Between Aaron Franklin grabbing boards and Sekou Kona coming through, which was extremely helpful for them. And also helpful for them was 7 boards coming from Stevie Elam. And so one of the things that Oakland was absolutely able to do in this game against Milwaukee, in spite of shooting 25% from beyond the arc, they were able to hold Milwaukee to 2 of 20 at 10%. And that was the difference. Now, mind you, Oakland didn't do any better from beyond the arc, but they did decidedly better than 10%. And they actually shot 42% for the entire game, which was a lot better than 34.3% for Milwaukee. Now, mind you, of course, with Faison Fields back, the dynamic up front is going to be the same. And also the ongoing improvement health-wise of Isaac Garrett is certainly going to be a factor in this particular game as well. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for us this week. Tune in next week. Jim will be back, and that's going to be the last week of the regular season, so you certainly do not want to miss that. Until then, go to HorizonRoundtable.com to pull up all past episodes, not just this podcast, but our regular podcast, as well as all of our written articles. So, until next week, thank you all for listening.